Give me 1 second. Let me get this going, guys. Okay. You guys see my screen?
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
There we go. So what's up, everybody? How are we doing?
Good.
Yeah, what have we been up to? Good stuff, I hope. All right. Got a little bit of a living the dream. There we go. All right. Well, let's go ahead and just catch up on something. We are halfway through the Win with Sellers experience, and you know I'm of the belief that when you are in one of these types of classes, that you are gaining knowledge for earning's sake, not for learning's sake. For earning's sake, not for learning's sake. So what that means to me is that not only are you sitting here getting information, but you're also putting it into action and hopefully seeing some form of result. So tell me, from our first 2 weeks of content that we've covered thus far, what have you made the decision to implement and what results have you seen in return? Who'd like to share?
I'll go.
Yeah.
Roselle and I have partnered up, and we are creating a new pre-listing packet. And we're actually, at this point, we're also going to be revising our listing package as well. So we're doing that.
Beautiful. So a brand new pre-listing packet and a listing presentation. Is that what I heard?
Yes, exactly. Sorry, we're coming back from a listing, so I'm in the car right now, and I'm going to switch over to my computer in a bit. But yeah, we're redoing our listing presentation and revising our listing packet. I think I told you mine was 1 page, and really now that I look at it, it was pretty weak. And although I'm not using, a lot of what's on the list, most of our ideas are coming from that list, so that was super helpful.
Beautiful. Love that. What else? What else have you guys and girls implemented over the last couple weeks of content?
Well, same thing for me. I'm just really trying to focus more on listings rather than being all over the place. So it's more of a mindset, I think, for me, like that's where I need to be. And just not only redoing actually, I never had a pre-listing presentation. So I actually took really good notes, and I'm going to do that. And then just tweaking my actual listing presentation from what you taught us last week.
Perfect. Yeah, Suzanne, in fact, I remember vividly that you were, in our first call, you mentioned you wanted to figure out a way to get these presentations down to 60 minutes or less, or maybe even 30 minutes. And hopefully you saw from that last class a couple of strategies on how you could do so.
Yeah, I think, for me too, I'm kind of a chatty person when I'm with my clients, but, like mirroring their, how they are too. I always have to keep that in mind too. And I feel like I'm usually pretty good at that, but I think I can do a better job.
Perfect. Yes. Adopt their communication style, not yours, right?
Yeah.
All right. Who else? Who else is compelled to share what they've applied from our first 2 weeks of content and what were the results? Anyone else? Let's hear from one more person. Who's going to win the lottery? I'll call somebody if I don't hear. All right. Justin Miller, tell us, what have you applied from our first 2 weeks of content so far? And what results have you seen, my dear friend?
Well, so a couple things. One, I've polished up my listing presentation, and I really like it right now. The other thing is actually I've taken comments from the first class about that you had made about prospecting, and I've created or am creating smart plans for follow-up through command with with people who fit into the various buckets so that I don't just simply lose people in the database. So I found that to be very helpful. But I'll stop with that.
What I heard in that was a pipeline management system, and cheers to you for doing that. Right, that's where agents will lose the deals.
You're getting really quiet. I can't hear you.
Oh, can everybody hear me? Drop a 2 if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Okay, good. Yeah, so pipeline management is what I heard, right? And so that's where
Yes.
it's sickening. It's sickening for some agents when they go back and they see how many transactions, or in this case, listing, were listed by somebody else as a result of a lack of a follow-up system with their pipeline. So cheers to you, Justin. Great job. Awesome, awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into today's content. By the way, I received the understanding that Win with Sellers 2 the upload didn't actually complete and wasn't sent out. So following today, I'll make sure that that is completed, as well as part 3 today. Part 3 will be uploaded tomorrow, but part 2 will be uploaded today. I'll see what happened there. Hopefully you're getting some great value out of this content. At the very least, I know there's quite a few of you that are enjoying it, because you wouldn't be spending your valuable time with me if you weren't, unless you're really nice, which by then I will say thank you. So let's go ahead and jump into today's content. We're going to start off with a conversation on servicing and marketing. So we're going to talk about, now that you've completed your listing consultation, you've taken the listing, what are some best practices and strategies for servicing and marketing that listing? We'll then finish the second half of our class digging into how to handle offers and negotiations with co-op agents. So let's go ahead and jump into servicing. And I'm going to start off by reading a quote from the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. This is from page 93 of the book that we also call MREA. And what it says here about servicing is that virtually every top producing agent we have ever worked with has a deep and almost inherent sense of service. They have a servant's heart, and they place their buyers or sellers' real estate experience above all else. They are always thinking service. Right? So what we're going to talk about is, how do you truly stand yourself apart and put service at the forefront as you're helping your clients? All right? I'll tell you, as we dig into this conversation, why this is so important that you're really hanging on to every word we discuss right now. Did anybody see what came out in the news yesterday about Realtor.com? Anybody? Okay. It's important that we wrap our heads and minds around this here. Right, so Realtor.com just started up a new section of their website called Sellers Marketplace. And in Sellers Marketplace, what prospective sellers have the ability to do now, yep, Rizal, you got it. What now your prospective sellers have the ability to do is go on that website, one of the most popular search engines for your buyers and sellers to be going online and looking at homes. And upon entering the Sellers Marketplace, see what kind of instant cash offers they will get from companies like Opendoor and WeBuyHouses.com. Now, does that make anybody else shiver in their boots?
Yes.
Right? Let me peel back the onion for you. Realtor.com. Realtor.com. By the way, it's not owned by NAR, National Association of Realtors. You see, News Corp had actually bought Realtor.com in the late 90s. When they purchased Realtor.com, though, their intention was to start getting into the data mining game of real estate clients. But see, the general public, they don't know the difference. So when they think of Realtor.com, they likely think of a website that is endorsed by the real estate professional. And now what is on Realtor.com? A tool that actually enables sellers of a home to not use a real estate agent. You see, many agents, and I'm a part of some of these big real estate Facebook groups like Lab Code Agents, Next Level Agents, and you'll see many of the agents, since this news was announced yesterday, they're in uproar. They're getting their pitchforks and their torches ready and saying, wow, why Realtor.com? And they're also confusing with NAR. Let's go after NAR. Wrong reaction, ladies and gentlemen, wrong reaction. You see, the ones that are truly worried about this are the ones that haven't taken a grasp on prospecting. They haven't, the first thought hasn't been, I need to educate my clients on what an iBuyer offering really means, on the hidden fees that are involved there, right? They're also, when you see these tools, and they've been popping up since 2018, right? Since 2018, we've been seeing these iBuyer offerings get more and more popular. It started off at 3% of the market share, up to 6%. By this year, it'll be up to 10% or higher. And guess what, folks? With COVID-19 entering our market, now your home sellers are looking for the value that an iBuyer offering offers. You mean to tell me no showings, a cash offer, very little involved with the inspection, and I'm out of the house in maybe 21 days? Sign me up, right? So what do we need to keep at the forefront in order to make sure we're not worried about things like these iBuyer collaborations and offerings? Any ideas? Yep, Suzanne, you hit the nail right on the head. You guys just didn't hear Suzanne, but she said it to me telepathically. You should be thinking, I need to master my prospecting skills and abilities. Not paying for leads. I need to master my ability to generate leads. That protects my business in any type of market, and no matter what trends and conditions are seen. I need to master my understanding of the market conditions and what's happening in my industry so that I can become a better educator. And I truly need to hone what it means to be a fiduciary in this business. You see, folks, the functionary agent in our business, drop a 3 in our chat if you could understand what I mean by a functionary agent over a fiduciary agent. Drop a 3 if you could understand what that means. The functionary agent is going to be out of this business in the next 12 months because there's no business that's going to be waiting for them anymore, unless they were okay with doing 1 or 2 deals a year. You all know the functionary agent, at least Tony and Justin do, and Louisa, right? The agent that hands over the contract, that says, I got your listing, I'll put it in the MLS. The one that answers their phone sometimes and accepts the offer and says, here's what you have, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, and that's about it, right? They don't take the fiduciary aspect of their role seriously, representing your seller's best interests at heart at all times. I know that there are 13 agents that do take that role seriously. If not, you wouldn't be here in this class. You're looking to improve your abilities around servicing and marketing, offers and negotiations so that you could be a better representative for your sellers. And to those of you, I give you huge props. That's why today's class is so important. And that's why I'm going to ask for all of you that plan on being a prisoner or a vacationer of today's class, drop a 1. But if you plan on being highly participative and taking something away from this class, drop a 2. Who are my prisoners and vacationers? And I'll tell you this, your silence is a 1. Your silence will mean a 1. There we go. Gladys gave me 2, 2, 2, 2. All right. Good. Don't be a prisoner or vacationer of today's class. Get involved, because this is how you're going to protect your business and make sure that you have one to be proud of in the next 12 months. All right, so are we energized? Do we understand why today's class is so important? Good. It's not meant to scare you, but ladies and gentlemen, we got to be real and get right about what's going on. And we got to make sure that we're ready to rock and roll. Margot, I'm not taking that half. I don't know what in the world you need to do to push that to a 2. You better get involved. All right, let's go and start our conversation around servicing. So servicing and marketing is going to be the next step of the seller's servicing cycle. We've talked about already the first 3 steps of this process, right? So we gave you an introduction to the course. We've talked about what you need to do from a lead generation and conversion standpoint. We've talked about the importance of pre-listing, and based on our first conversation, it sounds like many of you, that was an introduction. And to those of you, I would say, That definitely needs to be something that you're putting on your business plan to achieve in the next 30 days. Your pre-listing is going to sell yourself, and it's going to cut down the time that you're spending on your listing consultations. We then rounded out our conversation last week by digging into, okay, the listing consultation itself. What does it look like? Steps 1 through 7. And what are some best practices that you could be implementing into your listing consultation to ensure, as likely as possible, that you walk out with that agreement? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start off today's conversation about servicing by helping you understand when it comes to your approach to service, you should have 3 different levels to it. Your first level will be your purpose. You see, high achieving listing agents, they understand the purpose. Why should your clients be doing business with you? The purpose of you being a listing agent for your clients. You got to understand that when it comes to your service. I'll tell you one thing that you got to nail really well if you want to understand why your clients should be hiring you. Your unique selling proposition, your USP. Who here can share with us based off of last week's class? What is your unique selling proposition? What does that mean?
What differentiates me from others and how that helps you?
What and let's be specific here, Justin. What differentiates the person, Justin Miller, from the other 16,000 agents, many of which are giving you a bad name because they don't understand being a real estate agent? But what separates you from the rest of that pack and says, I'm not part of that 90% of the business that will be out of here in the next 12 months? Right? And Gladys, you're hitting it right on the head. Right? That consists of your background, your experience, your work history, your talent, your skills and abilities. When you understand those crystal clear, it becomes very easy for you to approach why people should be hiring you. Now, the next thing is then your value proposition. That's the next approach you should be considering when it comes to your service. What does the value proposition consist of? Somebody besides Justin, who could share with us what does the value proposition consist of? We covered this in last week's class.
I'm presuming it just means like what you bring to them as they're for selling their property, you know, the marketing and stuff that you can provide. And
there we go. Gladys, yep, you got it, Suzanne. And Gladys, you're somebody's taking notes. Gladys hit it, right? It's what you specifically do, which to Suzanne's point may include your marketing plan. But this is a list of everything that you do, the actions you take that brings value as a listing agent to your sellers. So that might include things like, I get professional photographies for every single one of my listings because I know 88% of the buyers out there, that's the first and most important thing in their home search. I get a professional cleaning order, right? I door knock 100 of your closest neighbors as soon as I walk out of the house with my listing agreement. What are all the things that you do that brings value to your seller as their listing agent? And then the
Daniel?
Yes. Who is that? Steve?
Yes.
Yes, Steve, what's up?
What we talked about was value proposition was, let's say every Wednesday or Thursday, I will call you and discuss the activity on your property so we know how to move forward and make adjustments if needed.
Bingo. Exactly, Steve. Things like that. What specifically do you do to bring value? Right? Thank you for that, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then the last approach you should consider when it comes to your service is you acting as a true fiduciary. So many of you said you understood what it meant to be a functionary versus a fiduciary. So what do we mean when we say, okay, when it comes to my level of service, how am I acting as a true fiduciary? How would you answer that question? Okay, Gladys said put the client first. Keeping their best interest at the top of your priority and job function. Yeah, but how do you do that, Edie, right? Like, that's what it means to be a fiduciary, right? So that's the definition. But how? How do you do that? What are you doing from a service standpoint? Negotiations, okay. What else? Vetting offers, okay. Love that. What else?
I would just say as a fiduciary, just making sure that you are educated on the market, the numbers, the stats, things like that.
Yeah, being educated on the market, the stats, absolutely, right? Demonstrate the relationship in all interactions with the client, absolutely. You see, the question that you have to answer when you're thinking about how am I being a fiduciary versus a functionary agent is how am I bringing an added level of trust, an added level of care to the relationship that a functionary agent doesn't bring? How am I bringing an added level of trust and an added level of care to the relationship that a functionary agent doesn't bring? Following up and requesting feedback. I love that, Rizal. Taking that into consideration and adjusting. I love that. Understanding the market, to Suzanne's point. Understanding different communities. Do you really understand the ins and outs of the community in which you're selling a home in? Or are you simply taking that listing agreement and planting a sign in the yard the next day? You understand the power of HOAs and non-HOAs. Yeah, who's going to say something? Tony?
Yeah, I was just thinking, because I always thought of fiduciary just meant for me to make sure that I put the interest of my seller or buyer above my own personal, and make sure that I'm doing what's best for them before I think about what's best for me.
1,000,000% yes. And that's a whole other layer to this conversation, right? What are you doing? At the end of the day, the definition of a fiduciary here is you're putting your seller's number one interest as your priority, including above your own.
Mm-hmm.
You see, we must operate with a little bit of an assumption that we are going to put our seller's best interest before our own. The conversation that I'm urging for us to be having right now is how are you serving as fiduciary that separates you from the 90% of functionaries in this job that give you a taller mountain to climb because they are order takers, right?
And just real quick, like one of the things that you have to battle at this a lot of times is, you know, your client may like a wonderful house, but maybe it's only got a 2% commission, and there's other ones that got 3%. And sometimes you don't want to bother with those 2 and 1.5s because you're thinking about yourself more than what the client really wants. And you know they would like that house, but that commission don't look good to me.
Bingo. Yep. And I'll share, and that's a whole other class, but we could talk about how to. You're not representing your buyers in the best light, but using a BBA can help with that. Sadly, I know lots of agents that won't even show those homes. Yeah, right. That's not being a fiduciary at that point. Mind you, if all you're doing is showing up to a listing appointment and just walking away with an agreement, shoving the property in the MLS, and then waiting for people to call on your listing, are you being a true fiduciary? No, right? You see, high achieving listing agents are very clear on how they separate themselves from those other agents. What they do to bring that added level of care and trust to the relationship. Okay? Here, this might help you. You see, we've talked a couple of times about the profile of home buyers and sellers and the data that it tells us. And one of the things it tells us, first and foremost, and this is also key, is what level of satisfaction do home sellers currently feel about working with a real estate agent? What percentage of agents would you say are satisfied with the level of service that they receive from their listing agent? Throw out some numbers in the chat or go ahead and unmute yourself and tell me what percentage do you feel of sellers are satisfied with the level of service they receive from their listing agent? 15. Wow. What other numbers? What percentage of sellers? 7. Okay. 30.
Daniel, you mean in general in the industry? You're not talking about what we feel our personal stats are?
Not your personal. What do you feel in general? What percentage of sellers out there are currently satisfied with the level of service that they receive from their listing agent? Tori said 80. Suzanne said 50. Edie said 50. Tony said 60. Tony, if we were playing Price is Right, by far you would be the winner, my friend. You see 66% satisfaction rate. How do y'all feel about this number? How do we feel?
That's sad.
Although I do feel like that the majority of listing agents probably have been in the business a lot longer. You know, it's not like all the new buyer agents are really doing a lot of listings.
Okay. Thank you for that, Suzanne. Any other feelings or emotional offers? Most of the list and sit. Okay. They do the 3 Ps. How many of you are familiar with the 3 Ps? They put the listing in the MLS, they put a sign in the yard, and they pray that another agent will sell the home. Right? You will serve yourself by adding a 4th P to your value proposition. It's actually a 4th and 5th P. You proactively prospect for your buyers, right? You don't just do the 3 Ps. You do Ps 4 and 5. You proactively prospect. But you see, nonetheless, our sellers currently are feeling 66% of them are satisfied with the level of service that they receive. Why? Because what they're looking for and wanting most, they're not getting, at least on a consistent basis. Right? This is what they want. They want somebody that can market the home to potential buyers. Whoops, what did I do here? They want a listing agent that can sell the home within a specified time frame. Right? What does that tell me? That tells me I need to understand my time frame for my sellers. What do they want? They want somebody that can price the home competitively. They want somebody that can price the home competitively. Even if they're willing, if they're insisting on overpricing it. Do you know how to price this home competitively? They want somebody that can find ways to fix up the home to sell for more. Right? And lastly, they want you to have the ability to find a buyer for their home. Let's be honest here. 1 being very good, very satisfied. 2 being somewhat satisfied. 3 being not satisfied. How would you rate yourself when it comes to your ability to meet what sellers want most? 1, you're very satisfied with your abilities. 2, you're somewhat satisfied. Or 3, you're not satisfied at all. How would you rate your ability to meet what sellers want most? Okay, thank you for being honest, Rizal. Rizal said a 3. Justin, you said a 2. 2 plus, as in 2 close to a 3.
And what's the scale again that we're using?
1, you're knocking it out of the park, very satisfied. 2, you're somewhat satisfied. And 3, you're not satisfied at all. Your ability to meet what sellers want most. 1.5, okay. Where's the gap, ladies and gentlemen? Where's your gap? Where's your gap? Saying no to family, okay. So I haven't seen any once. So anytime I see that, I gotta believe that there's some individuals in this group that has a reason for that gap, right? Like, why are you not completely satisfied with your ability to meet with sellers want most? A few of you have said, I'd like the opportunity to live. Okay, so maybe it's just you haven't had a chance at that. Some of you with proactively prospecting is my gap. Edie said, I would say 1 as far as doing what I say I'm going to do, but probably a 2 because lots are unrealistic about price and profit. I'm assuming you mean on the client side, they're unrealistic about price and the prioritizing the relationship rather than the job. Interesting. What advice do you all have for Rizal? Prioritizing the relationship rather than the job. How do we help Rizal with that? As a listing agent currently, she's prioritizing the relationship over the job. What do you guys have?
I don't think it's such a bad thing. I think the relationship's actually probably more important.
Okay, so the relationship's more important.
Mhm.
Who's the relationship with?
She's saying mostly family members.
Ah,
I think you have to really be aware of what you say and what you do for that appointment. Just like with any appointment, I don't think you can just like say, let's go out for drinks and then casually talk about, you know, your house. I think you have to come in and do an actual presentation, get them the pre-listing packet, do everything just as you would for a client. Dress up, don't show up in shorts and flip-flops. Rob is like, why? You know, just, you know, when you walk in that house, it's hard because it's your cousin or whatever, and you just, you know, you grew up with them, but show up as a professional, show up as their realtor, and show them what you can do in that capacity.
Yep. Bingo, right on the money, right? Be, do, achieve. You have to rethink what version of yourself is showing up at those appointments. Family member Rizal or listing superstar Rizal, right?
And never assume that you have the listing appointment before you get there, even though it is a family member.
Bingo, yep. Ladies and gentlemen, this slide right here is one of your gifts for today. You see, this right here will inform you of what you need to be putting in your value proposition. The only thing you need to be answering is, how do I? And then fill out the bullet point. How do I market the home to potential home buyers? Get that in your value proposition. How do I sell the home within a specified time frame? How do I price my homes competitively? How do I find ways to fix up homes to sell for more money? And then, of course, how do you find buyers for your home? This is your value proposition right here. Upon you answering these questions. Why is this so important? Because this is what sellers want most. Let's talk about service standards really quickly. There's a myth in this business. And drop a 4 if you agree with this statement. My clients will only work with me, only I can deliver the quality of service. My clients will only work with me, only I can deliver a quality of service. Drop a 4 if you can agree with that statement. Anybody resonate with that statement? All right, Justin said a 0. You're creating scales. All right. Perfect. Love that. Anybody else? I'm getting a lot of no's. You see, where I typically see this, everyone, is with those that say my clients will only work with me, and then as a result will kind of latch on, dig their little vulture claws into whatever activity or client that they possibly can, instead of handing off like it should, is because of this very belief. The clients will only work with that individual, not with anybody else on the team or within the organization. The fact of the matter is the client is not hiring you, believe it or not. The client is actually hiring the standards that you represent. The question is, have you defined the standards? Have you defined your standards for your service? So that was your opportunity to do so. What you're going to do is you're actually going to create a bit of a yardstick for your service standards. And what we mean by that is these are very specific actions or standards that you set for yourself when it comes to the service you provide to your clients. So what you're going to do right now is we're going to actually do this as an activity. I'm actually going to break off everybody into small groups. We're not going to do, and please don't leave the group, because I saw last time we lost like 4 people. I'm asking for you to participate because, again, we want to create fiduciaries, not functionaries, out of today's class. So I'm going to break this into groups of 4. There's going to be 4 groups going on. And what you're going to do is you're going to discuss your customer experience standards that you currently have or would like to enforce in your business. Okay? And secondly, how do you plan on enforcing those standards with accountability? So again, I'm going to break you off into small groups. You're going to answer the question of, what are the customer experience standards that you would like to have or currently have? And how do you plan on enforcing those with accountability? By the end of this 5-minute discussion with your small group, you should have then developed a plan for your standards and your accountability that we'll then have a quick discussion on. Are there any questions about what we're about to do here? Any questions? No questions? All right. Don't leave. Stay with me. We're going to have some great conversations right now. And it should. All right. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get you broken off into groups. Go ahead and have a great discussion around the service standards that you'd like to have.
I think I hit the go back to the main room while I was in the middle of a sentence.
I figured because your lips were moving, so I was like, oh, I think he's saying something.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. All right, everybody. Oh, look at all the cameras that popped up and then popped away. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about it. So what came from your discussion around your service standards? Who'd like to share?
We talked about the importance of communicating with our client during a listing, and how we hold ourselves accountable is either putting in your calendar and setting a certain time and date. For me, I shared that I have an alarm on my phone that goes off every Wednesday at 3:03 p.m. And the reason I chose an off time is because if it's 3, I might forget what it's about, but if it's 3:03, I know that means if I haven't already touched base with my listings, to touch base with them and give them an update on maybe, even if there's no offers, on how many showings on the market and if anything got listed or sold or anything like that, just an update on the listing itself.
Well, even if there's no activity, is there feedback behind that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it might be there's a problem with the price, or it might be who knows what's going on. So we talk about the market, we talk about whatever we can talk about, COVID, whatever.
Beautiful. Awesome, Edie. Thank you. Who else?
Daniel,
Yeah, Steve.
here's what Deja and I talked about. I really liked what she used, the figure of speech of she outlines her services. And I chimed in and mentioned I keep mine down to 6 or 7 services that I want to perform, and I will initial them right in front of the client. And we both talked about how we leave that with the client. And Deja brought up the key word, accountable.
Accountability. There we go.
Yes.
Okay. So all of your value proposition is what I heard there. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Who else? Who else would be willing to share? What is your definition of your, what is your plan for your service standards, and how do you plan on holding yourself accountable to them? Louisa, how about you? We haven't heard from you yet. We'd love to hear from you.
I don't think she was on the break room.
Oh, she wasn't. I think she was.
No. We had a few from our breakout session. You want me to share?
Yes, please, yeah.
We always, we have a checklist, you know, for all the stuff. So that's really how we keep accountable. But we are calling a lender. You know, I was saying I get a lot more information from the lender when we get an offer. So that's one thing we do. On my cover sheet, I have all the contingency dates on there that I write in right away. I put them on my board, and my TC also lets me know if I missed one or it's coming up. On the Sentry lock, we always get a notification when someone showed the home. So I keep in my email until I've actually followed up with that agent to see what they thought of the home, and then I delete it. For our photos and the MLS, we always have our clients sign off on it to make sure they like everything they see. And then just to keep up on the neighborhood, we also set up like a neighborhood search. If anything comes up, you know, like just listed, sold, so we can keep up on the comps during the listing.
I want everybody to do me a favor and type in the group chat, mic drop, because that's exactly what Suzanne just did. MIC drop. That's exactly what we look for in a plan for service standards, and how you're holding yourself, more importantly, accountable to achieving those. Spot on, Suzanne. Spot on. Right? There's a clear plan for how she's going to meet her service standards and ensure that it gets done. Right? That's what we all need to be able to achieve. And I think lastly, and maybe you could help us with this, Suzanne, how do you then communicate it to your clients?
Well, Tony came up, you know, that we said that we do a weekly call, you know, and we update them. We also have a market report. So we update them on what we've done that week, marketing wise, what the comps look like. So it's just a weekly call, and for me, it's on my calendar, to do that every Tuesday morning. So it's after the weekend.
Boom. Exactly. Awesome job, Suzanne. And for everybody, thank you for participating in that, right? Ideally, you got something from that conversation about I need to have standards for the service that I provide. It can't just be I'm going to make my clients happy. And then as a result, I'm going to act on a whim on how I'm going to create success in my experience with my sellers. You see, high achieving listing agents, it's systematic on how they meet the high standard for service for themselves. And they have a system in place for holding themselves accountable to it. What checklist system, what task management system do they utilize to ensure that each of those items on their service standard is done and met? Have it systematized, ladies and gentlemen. Have it systematized. Let's go ahead and start talking about the next part of this first section here, which is going to be about the marketing piece. And we're going to talk about 5 things in particular, so have your pen and paper ready. The first thing when it comes to marketing that we're going to talk about is your marketing plan. And what I'd like to show for everyone here is a marketing plan that comes straight out of Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Here is a 14-step marketing plan that you can use as inspiration in creating your own. So this is a step-by-step process for how I market my listings. Number 1, I price it strategically to compete and sell. That's the first step of marketing, right? Well, Dan, how is that marketing? Let me tell you how, Suzanne. Many of you, and we've talked about this before, have driven past a used car lot. And that price that's on that sticker on that car hanging out right outside that lot. Is that marketing? Yes or yes? Yeah, right? So pricing it strategically to compete and sell is the first step in your marketing plan. Number 2, I stage the home to present it in the best possible light. We're going to talk about some staging techniques and how I define staging to my clients. Number 3, I place it for sale with directional signage strategically. I follow up immediately on every single sign call. I distribute just listed notices to every single house in the neighborhood. I post it on my MLS or my Keller Williams listing system to optimize the property's online presence. And by the way, through that, it should syndicate to all of the most popular search engines out there. Number 7, I add lots of professional staged photos and a virtual video tour of the property to the online listing. Something you might want to add to that 14-step marketing plan. Something around Matterport or 3D tours. Number 8, I create a home book, comment cards, and flyers for the property. For those of you that use one, what's a home book?
Does it have all the utility bills and things in there?
Yeah.
Warranties on appliances and
Exactly. So the warranties, the past bills, information on the property, have a home book ready to go. Many of your title partner reps will actually be able to get a home book prepared for you. Number 9, target and market the property to active real estate agents in the community. Pull up those that have sold a home in that community in the last 12 months and say, hey, I saw you just sold a property or listed a property in that neighborhood. I just listed one. Who else did you receive an offer from that should probably be seeing this property? Number 10, produce and deliver a direct mail campaign to your database. Number 11, include the house in company-sponsored tourist caravans and or partners meetings and sales meetings. Number 12, create an open house program. Number 13, target market to your investors and active buyers in your database. And last but not least, provide weekly updates on marketing, showing buyer feedback and agent feedback to your sellers. First off, what emotional outbursts or thoughts do you have to this 14-step marketing plan?
I think I used this originally, and I now have like a 30-step marketing plan because there was quite a bit more to add, with social media and stuff like that.
Bingo, yeah, right? All the individual social media platforms. How are you leveraging YouTube, right? What else could you be adding to this marketing plan? Would anybody add anything else to this 14-step marketing plan and be willing to share? What else would you add?
I think I was like calling. I think on mine I have calling the neighbors, or doing like a slide dial, you know, like at some point I was doing, and then maybe door knocking.
Okay, so a slide dial, which is a voicemail drop system, that's currently legal. Keyword, currently legal, right? So slide dial, that's a great service. Door knocking,
Daniel, did you say illegal or legal?
currently legal with an L. Currently. Be careful with that service. Don't marry your marketing plan to that service, by the way. Lawsuits are popping up left and right on that. Anything
I could
else?
do the aerial photography if it was a high-end listing.
Aerial photography, love it. Lydia, what would you add to this list? Lydia, come on.
Yes, I would do like I suggested earlier is to be continuously dropping in and checking in on the property, make sure if it's vacant that everything is in its place, that the key's in the lockbox, that there's the backyard is clean, tidied up, and the house is clean, and there's water in the house, in the fridge.
Love that. I love that because here's the deal. Bring a can of Windex with you or a bottle of Windex and spray that thing down. That can absolutely be part of your marketing plan. I think the big piece that's missing on here, reverse prospecting. How many of you are familiar with reverse prospecting?
True.
Huge opportunity for selling your listing. And many agents, especially the functionary ones, don't even know about reverse prospecting. Wait a second, Mr. or Mrs. Real Estate Agent. You mean to tell me you have a way of knowing which real estate agents have a buyer who's a fit for this property, and you could see if that prospective buyer hearted the property and favorited it? What? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. It's called reverse prospecting. When you take a listing, all you have to do is on the home page of the MLS and Matrix, you click My Active Listings, you hit the checkbox next to your listing, and a little feature called reverse prospecting will pop up. It'll tell you all of the agents who have a portal set up for a buyer, and in that buyer's portal is your listing. And even better, it'll also show you what type of icon has that buyer assigned to your listing. Did they give a heart sign, meaning it's favorited? Did they give a light bulb, meaning it's something to think about? Or did they give a trash can, meaning it's a pile of dung? You have access to that information through reverse prospecting in the MLS.
That's on the MLS page when you're inputting a listing?
Not when you input a listing, when you've already listed the property, okay, on the home page of the Matrix, you'll see a section where you'll be able to access your My Under Contract listings, My Under Contract sales, My Active Listings. When you go into your active listing, you'll see a checkbox. You hit that checkbox, a little feature will pop up called Reverse Prospect. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, will tell you exactly who you need to be prospecting to right away. Not a lot of agents know that, so that's okay. But see, that's the kind of stuff that separates you from the functionary agent. That's putting your seller's interests at heart and not waiting for somebody else to sell the property. Okay? All right, so the next thing that we need to talk about with marketing is any form of marketing, you have to think about two things, okay? First off is the message. What are you saying? And number two is the method. Where are you saying it? Right? So what sort of messages should you be saying in today's market to prospective sellers? If you take a listing, let's make this really specific. If I take a listing, it's time for me to prepare some marketing. What are you saying in today's market on your marketing? COVID safety measures, okay? Love that. That'll attract buyers and sellers. Wow, this is a COVID-19 safe realtor. I love that. What else could you be saying? Beautiful suggestion, Edie. You take a listing. What else should you be saying in your marketing message?
I think that because there's so much hype around the market, we can assure our sellers that we are market experts, that we're constantly watching the market to know and watch market trends to be able to help them make the best decision about their property.
Bingo. Okay, so maybe you're discussing specific trends you're seeing in the market. Brag about the neighborhood and schools. Lydia, dropping the hammer. Love that one. Right? Discuss the neighborhood and schools. What are you seeing? What else?
My message, one of them right now is if it's got like a home office, because it seems quite popular right now, or a good backyard.
A good backyard. Okay, so whatever's popular right now, absolutely. As soon as you get the property under contract, that's a new marketing message. Home sold in 14 days. Now, where you say it, many agents nowadays are leveraging social media. Love that. Right now, we have an agent in our office who's creating Facebook leads. He takes the listing, he puts it on Facebook, and he's marketing it through social media. For those of you that have paid for leads before, you will understand the cost per lead and how when you generate leads from marketing, that cost can get as high as $10 to $15 a lead. Facebook leads we're currently seeing being generated as low as 61 cents a lead. 61 cents a lead. Your method and where you say it is super important right now. People are home and they're on social media. If you don't have social media as a part of your method in your marketing, you're missing out on a huge, huge piece right now. I'll tell you another method. Direct mail has not died. Direct mail has not died. We have an agent in our office, just took a listing, and his coach challenged him to send out 150 flyers marketing the property. And on the property flyer, write this phrase down. Blake Home Group did it again. Blake Home Group did it again. Justin Miller did it again. Edie Rodriguez did it again. Marilee did it again. A picture of the property right smack dab in the middle, and right below it, the price at which he sold that listing. He sent that out to 150 homes. On day number 2 of those flyers hitting the homes, he got a come list me call. He said, I have a property here. I don't want it anymore. I need to get rid of this thing, and I actually want a 1031 exchange. He just made $15,000 off of a direct mail. Don't believe that direct mail doesn't work, ladies and gentlemen. Talk with your title reps about absentee owner lists. Get those absentee owner lists together and start telling them your message. There's never been a better time to cash out on your equity. Your method, direct mail those absentee owners. Go get more listings. Got to be thinking about your message and your method right now. Gary Keller states, the message you put out to attract prospective buyers and sellers is everything. Why would they contact you in this market? What would they get if they did? Those are the 2 questions you need to be answering in your message. What would they want to contact you in this? Why would they want to contact you in this market? And what would they get if they did? These 2 questions are at the heart of all effective messaging. Write those 2 questions down, ladies and gentlemen, and make sure as you are creating a post on social media, a direct mail flyer for your listing, that you are thinking to yourself, why is this person going to contact me in this market, and what are they going to get if they did? By the way, the answer to that latter question is called a call to action. Every single one of your marketing pieces should have a call to action. What are they going to get if they contact you in this market? All right, the next thing we want to talk about, it shouldn't say message and method at the top. It should actually say managing your marketing budget. So the first few things, and we don't have to spend too much time on this one, it's pretty straightforward, ladies and gentlemen. Write this concept down. Red light, green light, red light, green light. You red light expenses until you red light your expenses until you've made revenue. Then you green light expenses that you are willing to hold accountable. Far too often I see unskilled listing agents, they'll take a listing and then they will employ 10 different marketing strategies. Employ one or two and track its effectiveness. Question for the group. How would you track the effectiveness of a marketing strategy? And this isn't a general question. How would you specifically track the effectiveness of any particular marketing strategy that you take on? What would you do? How would you track its effectiveness? Any responses?
Well, I'd wanna see how many actual hits I'm getting from that site over the maybe a week and see where it's going.
Love that. Okay, so what I'm hearing is I might set up a listing landing page, or I might set up a social media ad. I want to see what kind of hits I'm getting. That's going to track my effectiveness. Love that. Number of people that contact me, maybe off of a sign call. That's going to be tracking my effectiveness. What else? Anything else?
I look at all the various outcomes. So it's not just number of people who turned into a lead or called about a particular property or signed a contract, but it's each of the outcomes. And then I would place value on each of those outcomes. So a lead is worth X number of dollars, a signed contract is worth X number of dollars, and I would divide that by the cost of the particular activity.
Justin, do me a favor in the group chat. I want you to type mic drop, because that's what you just did, my friend. Mic drop, M-I-C drop. Drop that, because you just dropped the mic right there. Effectiveness doesn't always mean that you've generated a deal and a listing. We have to remember this. I'm dropping mic. No, not quite, but that's okay. Gentlemen, marketing is going to take time. Marketing is going to take money. The stories and testimonials that I've spoken to about the 61 cents per lead and the day 2 you generated come list me off of a direct mail, those do happen, but don't go in with the expectation that that's going to be your end result. In many cases, you market to create exposure, and that's going to take time and consistency for you to see effectiveness in the definition of actual deals being generated. To Justin's point, effectiveness might mean how many people actually just clicked on my ad, just clicked on it. How many people actually got an impression? An impression just means it popped up on their feed, right? That's effective. So see, the question you need to be asking yourself when you're creating marketing outside of the message and method is then how am I going to track its effectiveness? And then everybody else is going to need to also track this next question. What does success mean in this marketing plan? What does success mean? So now that I understand how I'm going to track its effectiveness, how do I know that it's been successful? To Justin's point, success might not mean a certain number of leads generated. Maybe, though, it means it got in front of a certain number of people. What I'm looking to do, what my mission is with this conversation right here, is to stop any of you from spending money loosely on marketing when it comes to listing. Employ one or two marketing strategies, track its effectiveness, and define success. And if it didn't work, don't do it again. Avoid that pitfall. I will see agents throw money. You know what? It didn't work because I didn't throw enough money. Here's another $1,000. Don't do that. Suzanne, you're laughing. I'm assuming that that's happened to you or you've seen that. Right? All right. Let's talk about staging. This isn't in your book, so you might want to take this down. When I talk to sellers, I actually let them know I will help you with staging when it comes to what I call the 4Ds. In fact, if you YouTube my name, there's probably a good chance you'll see a video for staging the 4Ds. And this is how I simplified staging for my clients. What I'm going to help you with is decluttering, depersonalization, deodorizing, and disinfecting. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, let's talk about what staging your property really means. Decluttering. We need to get all of the items that are on countertops into boxes. Put it away. The toys for the kiddos, organize. Get the clutter out of here, though. Okay? Now, depersonalize. All of your beautiful family photos, all of your pet stuff, all of your political stuff, and all of your religious stuff. This is always the toughest thing for me to ask of you, yet this is what will help you sell your home fast, the same for top dollar. We have to put those away. Why are we saying that, ladies and gentlemen? Why do we need to depersonalize the house?
Everybody
To
has
defend the person.
everybody has a different style.
Everybody has a different style, okay? What were you going to say, Tony? Or
I said it could offend somebody, some of what you're doing, you know, especially if it's religious or something on politics.
Bingo, right?
We also get them to declutter by throwing their children and pets out.
That might also be a piece of depersonalizing too, right? So,
And deodorize it.
yep, exactly. Yep, that's funny, right? So we just have this conversation and know that it's okay to be aware of the fact that, hey, this isn't an easy conversation to have. Yet, I'm making this advice based on what I've seen encourages the fastest and highest netting sale of a property is depersonalizing it. All right. Deodorizing. If you go on Amazon, you could search Fresh Wave. Fresh Wave has these little gel cans or little gel things that you can put around. I would get 2 of those and put it around any of my listings prior to the listing hitting the market, and that would typically wipe out any smells, or at least the majority of smells. It's called Fresh Wave. You can get those on Amazon for like $12 a piece. And then disinfect, whether it's you encouraging them to hire a personal cleaner, you cleaning it yourself, and then have Lydia, you are amazing. Have lots of Purell and sanitizing wipes on you and ready to leave behind at the listing, especially in today's market. But folks, that's staging. That's staging in a nutshell to start. You just on this and consulting your clients to this, you're 90% of the agents out there. The whole idea of staging is it's presenting the best face possible for the home. All right? Presenting the best face possible for the home. But some other things that you might want to do with staging, I'm just going to give you some additional tips here. If you want to maximize spaciousness of the home, get the furniture away from the walls. Bring them in a little bit closer. It makes the rooms actually look a lot bigger. So this goes against what every interior designer is stating. Don't put the furniture against the walls. Bring them in. It'll make the rooms look much bigger. Another thing I would say, get white linens for the bathrooms. White linens. It looks more luxurious for your listings. White linens for the bathrooms. Have those ready to go. Have a stack of them, put them in your trunk, and bring them with you to your listing appointments, not when we've taken a listing. Okay? What are some other techniques that you are currently using or might utilize to stage your properties? Anybody has any techniques they'd be willing to share?
We actually will sometimes put in, well, sometimes we've only done 2 listings so far. Gallery quality art to bring some color into a space, because a lot of people don't seem to understand the impact of color and they're afraid of it, but it can actually be very impactful.
Yeah, nice accents, right? Yeah, bring some nice, beautiful. What else?
What about some flowers?
Fresh.
Can we bring flowers?
Yes, yes, yes. Put some green. By green, I mean flowers all around that house. Freshens up the rooms. Anything else?
I think lighting's important too, to always have that conversation with them as well about opening the blinds and maybe taking them down if they're ugly.
Yes, take down the ugly Gothic castle and open up any curtains and blinds, right? Absolutely. Turn on all lights, even if it's broad daylight. Turn on the lights. Bring as much brightness into these rooms as possible. Anyone else have any other staging techniques?
That's it.
What'd you say? Any other staging techniques? Okay. Also, some other things. In your kitchens, every appliance, put them away. Put your appliances away. Take things down from the counter. You want the countertops in the kitchen to be as free and clear as possible. As free and clear as possible. Okay? In the mirror, make sure you wipe the dirty toothbrushing that people like spit all over the place. Wipe that off the mirrors, right? Make sure the bedrooms are made. Try to see the other notes that I have here. Small table lamps have been great investments, right? Brings more lighting to certain areas like the living rooms and bedrooms. I'm just trying to see if I have anything. That's kind of the majority there. If you stick to the 14, I'll tell you what, that's going to take care of a majority of the conversation. If you do that, 80% of the job is done. The last 20% would be embellishments. Okay? It won't cost them much, if anything. The thing that we have to keep in mind, last thing that we're going to talk about with servicing and marketing is keep this in mind. There is a cost for a listing that you take that doesn't sell. I see far too many agents that are okay with taking a listing so that they can get their name in a yard and start getting that free marketing. You do not want to do that, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going to explain to you why. First off, drop a 1 if you're okay with taking a listing that doesn't sell. Just so I can see. Drop a 2 if you're not okay with it. Drop a 1 if you're okay with taking a listing that doesn't sell. Drop a 2 if you refuse to take a listing that won't sell. Just drop it in the chat. Good. Good, good. It's okay if you feel like a 1. That's okay. Just be honest with us. Gladys, you have a 1. Justin, you're going to have all kinds of ways of saying 2. Deja, we got a 2. Good to see you, Deja. Tony's got a 2. Steve's got a 2. Let's do the math really quickly together. Marketing a property. Throw out some figures. How much would could it typically cost to market your listing? Anybody, throw out some numbers. How much would it cost to market the property? Come on, ladies and gentlemen, tell me.
$750 to $1,500.
750 to 1,500. Okay. Anybody else? Lydia got lots. I can't write lots. It's gonna be hard to calculate. We'll go with the 750 to 1,500. All right. How much would you say it's going to cost you from the staff that's involved with a listing and the travel that's required? How much money can we assign to that value? The time that your staff or other individuals are spending on this, as well as the travel that's involved with the listing. Think about this, going on the appointment, maybe coming back to get the lockbox off, checking on that listing per what some of you were saying. Gladys says 150 bucks. Okay, let's go with it. Information systems, so tools and systems and technologies that you use to manage a listing. How much could that cost you? Give me a number. How much are you paying in information systems for a listing? Drop some numbers, ladies and gentlemen. Think about this, your CRM, between your transaction management, between keeping track of the feedback, the different systems that you might utilize for that, how much would you say that's all going to cost?
That's kind of a sunk cost, right? That defers over all of your listings, whether ones are selling or not. So there are things though that I don't know if you want to put it in category 1 or category 3, like printing of brochures and postage and stuff like that.
Okay. Right, and that comes back to the marketing piece, right? Now your time, how many of you have assigned $1 per hour to your time? If you have, just go ahead and drop it in the chat. If you have and you're willing to share, just go ahead and drop it in the chat. What's your $1 per hour? Here is assigned $1 per hour. Okay, 2,000. What else? What's your $1 per hour? $50 per hour. Okay. What are the numbers you're seeing? Come on, ladies and gentlemen, don't become prisoners and vacationers. Talk to me. What's your $1 per hour? Unassigned, that's okay. At least you're being interactive here. $35 an hour, okay. Folks, if your $1 per hour is anything less than $200, you need to go to meetmahabir.com right now, and we need to book a session to talk about what's going on. If it's anything less than $200 an hour, and I say that with no judgment whatsoever. I say that because I do see many agents that either one, to Justin's point, are underselling themselves. More importantly, they might be spending their time in activities that aren't making them a very high $1 per hour, right? But I would say, let's just say on average, $200 an hour is what a solid real estate agent should be making in this business, realistically. Now, $200, how much time would you say is spent on an unsold listing? How much time would you say is spent on an unsold listing?
Too much.
Give me a number. Think about everything we've done thus far in the seller servicing cycle, right? You've lead generated, you've converted, you've done a pre-listing and prepared that, you've gone on the listing consultation, you've put the property in there, you've serviced it, you've marketed it, all for nothing. How much time have we spent? How many hours?
20 hours.
20 hours, let's go with that. 20 hours times 200 is what?
4,000.
$4,000 there. And then your reputation. Here's what you can count on, ladies and gentlemen. A listing that doesn't sell is going to cost you another listing. You see, listings that don't sell will impact your reputation. You have now given other agents the ability to speak to why you are not the right listing agent for a potential seller. It will impact your reputation and potentially cost you at least one listing. You can count on that. What's the average commission that you would earn on a listing? $7,500? Can we go with that? $8,000? Let's go with $8,000 then. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just done my math. I don't know about you, but I'm up to $13,000 at a listing that doesn't sell costs me. How many of you would like to lose $13,000? $13,000. You see, this is not what agents are thinking about when they walk into a listing appointment with a client that is being unreasonable. It will cost you. Be willing to walk away from these listing appointments where they are not willing to budge on their price. They want to steer every piece of marketing and in fact tell you how to market. Got to be very careful. It costs you a significant amount of money. Let's talk about pricing really quickly here, okay? When it comes to pricing, there's some steps that I'd like for everyone to consider. The first thing you have to know is what's in today's market, okay? What sells? There are two factors that determines what sells in any market. Anybody want to guess what those two factors are?
Supply and demand.
Good, good. When it comes to a home, what determines?
Price.
What'd you say?
Price and condition.
Oh, the manual. Price and condition are the two determining factors of whether a property is going to sell. Okay? So we have to know that, and based on that, we have to know what about price and what about condition will ensure this property sells. We have to know what the seller can and cannot control. Okay, so I'm going to teach everybody about a method. For those of you that are with me at Keller Williams, I see a few of you on this. This isn't going to be news to you, but bear with me here. And in fact, chime in if you've used this technique on your own points. This technique I'm about to share with everybody is called the CAPE method. What I want everybody to do, and in fact, I'm going to do this with you here. I want everybody to emulate what I'm about to do. This is specifically what you should be doing when it comes to pricing. In fact, if we talked about nothing else when it came to pricing, we'd be okay. Here's your whole conversation about pricing, all right? You're going to draw out this quadrant here. This little cross right here. And you're going to say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what I'm about to explain to you is exactly what factors go into selling a home and so that we can discuss what you cannot control. You see, those 4 factors that goes into what sells a property, I call it the CAPE method. It's an acronym for those 4 factors. And in each of the quadrants, you're going to write out CAPE. Is everybody with me so far? Okay. The C, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller stands for condition. So this is basically the condition of the home. What upgrades have we done? What upgrades do we need to do? How's the flooring, the paint, all that good stuff. All right? Mr. and Mrs. Seller, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the condition of your home? You ask them that question. They'll tell you a 7 out of 10. Great. Let's talk about A stands for access. So this is the access that we offer to all of the potential buyers and buyers agents. And the reality is, the more access that we can provide to those buyers and buyers agents, the more offers that we'll see, and thus the higher a price that you get on your offers. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, let me ask you this. Are you going to require an appointment in order to see your property? No, I'm actually going to stay with my cousin. Great. So we're going to have this as a vacant property then. Is that correct? Yes. That's a 10 out of 10 access. Now, for those that don't want to have it as a vacant property, your next question is going to be, what sort of notice are we going to require for potential buyers and buyers agents in order to see this property? Hint, hint, if it's anything longer than an hour, we got a big problem on our hands. As we go lower and lower than an hour, that's going to up the rating. But you're going to want to rate this. You know, oh, we're going to require an hour. Any way that we can get it down to 30 minutes. Great, we can get it down to 30 minutes. Rate that 8 out of 10 then in access. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the P stands for price, and this is obviously the biggest factor that goes into whether your property sells and how quickly. And we're going to get to that in just a minute. I just want to briefly explain to you that E stands for exposure. And the reason why I want to jump to this is because when it comes to condition, access, and price, you control what happens with this listing when it comes to the condition, access, and price of it. The thing that you're hiring me for is the exposure of this. And I will tell you this, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, that based on my marketing plan that I've shown you, this is a 10. If you want, now let's talk about price. Any seller that I speak with, they're going to want a 10 out of 10 on the price. Mr. or Mrs. Seller, I'm going to be honest with you. Is that okay, Tony?
Yes.
Great, Tony. If you want a 10 out of 10, which I would agree with is what every seller should want, what that's going to require for you to also be a 10 out of 10 in condition and a 10 out of 10 in access. Great. So because we're not necessarily at a 10 out of 10 in condition and 10 out of 10 in access, we need to talk about what are you willing to do? Are you willing to get us there, or are we going to have that show up in price? So what would you like to do, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, when it comes to the price? And that's the conversation. Shut up and sit back. Let them tell you what they're going to do with condition, access, and price. Remember, they own that piece of the listing and conversation. Questions or thoughts on the CAPE method?
So with that 7 on 10, you're saying that instead of going the price and what they want to do, let them figure out if they want to upgrade some of the conditions to bring it up so that we'd be closer to their price.
You do not need to get into excuse my French here, you do not need to get into a price pissing match, right? What we do is we tell them, if you want a 10 out of 10 price, which I totally understand because that's what every seller should want, know that if you want a top of the market price, this has to be a top of the market property. And you said it yourself, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the condition's a 7 out of 10. Let's dissect why it's a 7 out of 10 and what gets to a 10 out of 10. Ladies and gentlemen, that will help you with your pricing conversations. Any other questions or thoughts on that? Good? Does that help?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. Couple other things I want to make clear. Understand the window of opportunity. Your window of opportunity is the first 2 weeks that a property hits the market. Those are the most crucial 2 weeks that a listing hits the market. That's when it will have the most eyes. After the 2 weeks, and actually I would venture to say, because the material here says 2 weeks, I would venture to say in today's market that's closer to 30 days. But after those 30 days that a listing is on the market, you now are closing your window of opportunity. And what I mean by that is your buyers or potential buyers and buyers agents start to wonder what's wrong with this property. You're in a really fast moving market. The median days on market right now is anywhere from 21 to 24 days, generally speaking. And so as a result, when a property is exceeding those days on market, your window of opportunity is closed and now you have a stigma. Educate your sellers on the window of opportunity and exactly that being the reason why pricing your property outside the market doesn't make sense. You want as much traffic, as much offers on that property in that window of opportunity. And far too many sellers don't even understand this concept. Well, it's okay. I'll just price it at the high end. If I don't get any activity, then I'll just drop the price in 3 weeks. Don't do that. You just closed your best shot at all the buyers looking at the property. Price should reflect the market movement. Which way is the market moving right now when it comes to price, ladies and gentlemen?
Increasing.
It's increasing. We started the year with a median sales price of $310,000. Would you be shocked to hear that our median sales price right now is $330,000?
$330,000.
$330,000, 20 grand in appreciation, generally speaking. We are at a place where pricing ahead of the market means we could start to push up a little bit. Do not be over aggressive though. You have something to be concerned with when you're in this type of market, and this is what crushes listings. It starts with an A and ends with appraisal. What is it? Help your sellers understand that they have to still be concerned with an appraisal. Do not be overly aggressive in a market that has this sort of velocity going to it. It's moving upwards and it's moving with high momentum, but we do not want to get overly aggressive. Your appraisals will shut that back and give you one thing to worry about. So what I like to do when I have a pricing conversation with my sellers is I like to have a good, better, I like to have a fair market value at the top of the price, at the bottom of the market. And I like to tell them, I like to acknowledge with my sellers, obviously we don't want to price it below the market because we might be leaving money at the table. We obviously also don't want to price it at the high end of the market because we might be missing our window of opportunity. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you might naturally want to price it right at fair market value. And even that, I would say, let's talk about why it might be a good idea at pricing this just below fair market value. Ladies and gentlemen, today's market, we are now back at auction style opportunities for your listing, where you have multiple people submitting offers on that home. And when you have multiple offers, now there's some fun things that we can do. Let me see if it's on here. It's going to be on the next slide. But now we can start impacting the sales price and the additional terms of the sale of this property when we price it right below fair market value. You got to come in with that range and show them what fair market value is and come right below it. That would be my recommendation to you.
Don't you find right now, though, that a lot of buyers are asking for big closing costs too? So how do you factor that in if they're asking like $5,000?
Yeah, when we talk negotiation, I might help you with that conversation.
Oh, okay.
All right, any questions about pricing?
Do you find that single family homes and condos are like totally different markets too for pricing? Because finding a lot more offers on my single family than condos right now.
Oh yeah, especially when COVID-19 hit, the condo market hit a snail's pace. Edie could probably speak to this. And it's recovering, but it's recovering slowly. It's still dealing with the shift that occurred with COVID-19.
So different. So when Ralph and I started years ago, we were high-rise specialists. We used to sell, and every high-rise condo tells all of them, even mid-rise, all of them. Condos was our niche. That was our thing. But what's happening is that because of COVID, the amenities are not open or very limited, or people, even if they're open, people are worried about going to the gym, the pool, the spa, like the coffee bar, whatever. And so they're not utilizing those things that you're paying $500-600 a month HOA for. So it's definitely, I think because of that, maybe that's taken a hit.
I think you're spot on there. Yeah. So yeah, your single family homes are moving. They're moving and shaking, especially anywhere in the $200,000 or $400,000 price point. It's insane. It feels like 2017, where your buyers are writing their offers right away.
Daniel, I can't hear you.
No, I can't either. It's going in and out for the last 20 minutes.
Can y'all hear me now?
It sounds
Not really.
like you're tapping your microphone.
Okay, let me try this really quickly. Shoot. Does this? Does this help?
That seems pretty good.
Yeah, better. Thank you.
Okay, good. Tori said I was hearing you okay. Yeah, it's all right. Well, we'll figure that out. The recording will be uploaded on YouTube, and we'll make sure that you all have that access as well. All right, let's go ahead and talk about offers and negotiations really quickly, and then we'll wrap this up here. So the next step that we want to talk about is, okay, you've serviced it and marketed the listing. You've figured out your message and method. You've priced it right. So many things have gone well with the servicing and marketing stage. Naturally, offers are going to start rolling in. The question becomes, how do I handle those offers, and how do I become a better negotiator? Let's talk about that. First off, when the offers are coming in, we're going to discuss some best practices, the moment of truth, multiple offers, and lowball offers. With best practices when it comes to offers overall, first thing that you should be keeping in mind, you must be presenting all of your offers to your sellers. If you're not, you are setting yourselves up for some big, big problems. Okay? Present all of your offers to your sellers. Never, ever reject an offer without talking with your seller first. Okay? That should be common sense. But again, keep in mind, we got to speak to every agent, and not a lot of agents understand that. They want to jump right in negotiations right away. Slow your horse. Present the offers to your seller. Next thing, present the offers to your seller as quickly as you possibly can and meet with your clients to discuss it. Why are we saying meet with your clients to discuss it? Anybody have any ideas?
You're saying meet in person?
Yeah, and I would say in today's day and age, even a meeting like what we're doing right now is sufficient, but why are we saying to have this sort of meeting?
That's how we are fiduciary.
Okay, fiduciary. Justin, I saw you unmute yourself. Talk to us, Mr. Lawyer Man.
So we're professionals and we understand things in the offer that our seller is likely to gloss over and not understand. We may also have an understanding or some insight into what's being presented and the capacity of the potential buyer to do something other. So we can create scenarios for our clients that they probably can't imagine on their own.
Bingo. I think a couple things to add to this. We get numb to this part of the process because we see offers, we write offers, we present offers day in and day out, and it's like nothing to us. We go through it like we go through using the restroom, right? The problem is we have to keep in mind that buying and selling a house are two of the 5 most stressful things an individual will go through in their life. Signing contracts, reviewing contracts is a scary, scary part of the process.
If you're gonna have.
We have to remember to reset ourselves and get back to the fact that this is this individual's experience. And meeting with them and holding their hand throughout the process is of the utmost importance. Key point I can't stress enough. Be enthusiastic and non-judgmental. We're going to talk about lowball offers here in a minute. Do not ever be emotional, negatively emotional about any offer that you receive. Come with enthusiasm. Even with those lowball offers, Suzanne, good news, we got an offer.
I enthusiastically say you should reject this.
Next up, get your offers in writing. Don't ever commit or gain commitment through verbal discussions. Okay? Get everything in writing. I've seen far too many times. I will talk with Edie about these terms and we'll get on the same page. Oh my God, this is great. I can't wait to see the offer. When everything's fully executed and then later on you realize, oh my God, this is not what what we discussed. That is in writing right now.
That's happened.
Okay? Thank you. Get it in writing. Lastly, encourage yourselves to think about accepting or countering any reasonable offer. Don't get them to reject any offer too easily. We're going to talk about that in a minute here. Let's talk about the moment of truth. When your sellers receive an offer, they're going to have one of three options: accept, counter, or reject. Let them know that countering is and will likely be their likeliest route to take. But don't put reject as the best option on the table for them ever. Accept or counter, accept or counter. Keep in mind, you must consult. Put on your consulting hat. Don't just keep them focused on the one thing that they want to talk about on an offer, which is what? The one thing that they want to talk about is the price on that offer. There's a lot more to an offer. There are ways that an offer can be drawn up that really sophisticated buyer's agents can add or to make their offer look better than an offer that's added $2,000 or $3,000 more on the price. They've done things to who's paying for real property transfer tax, who's paying for the HOAs, who's paying for escrow fees. Sophisticated buyer's agents will do those kind of tweaks, and you need to help your sellers know just because it's selling for this amount doesn't mean that's the best possible option. Especially unreasonably high offers. Keep in mind, a smart, tactical buyer's agent will keep in mind that they have the appraisal in their back corner. Okay? Help them understand the additional terms. What does it say about repairs and buyer's due diligence? What does it say about appraisal contingencies and loan contingencies? Right? Well, if this one's shorter, we actually have the ability to reduce the risk with this buyer, right? So you have to consult with them about all aspects of an offer. Help them understand what's going on in the market and their position in that negotiations. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I know we haven't discussed this, or maybe we are continuing to discuss this. Since we received this offer, it's important for us to reassess what is available on the market as our competition, what has sold and will thus impact the appraisal, and what is currently under contract. Reassess those things and what that means for your seller's positions in negotiating. Explain the real costs and benefits of waiting. If you want to pass on an offer, great. Well, let's break down how much this next month's mortgage is going to cost you. And does it make sense for us to just move on from this offer? These are all best practices when you're dealing with the moment of truth and you're helping them understand. Do not ever, to all of my fiduciaries in this class, put the offer in an email, break out the terms, send it off, and wait for their response. Do not ever do that. You are not being a fiduciary and a consultant. Okay?
I think that's so important what you brought up about the mortgage, though.
We got to ask them. I don't know.
Oh, go ahead, Edie.
Sorry. There was probably closer to like a year ago or something, but we had a listing in Summerlin, and she was a widow. She had moved to California. She was used to her husband doing the negotiations, and before he passed, he told her, I wouldn't sell this home for less than $350 no matter what. Well, the market had changed slightly, but she was paying $1,800 a month in mortgage while she's living in California, so she's paying double rent. It was killing her. she was going to turn an offer down for 2,000 because it was 2,000 under what her husband had told her. And so we talked about that. I said, hey, how much is it costing you? The mortgage was like 17 something, almost 1,800. And then after the HOA fee, it was over $2,000. So she was going to spend more if she had rejected that offer. So she accepted it and it closed. And that was great because right after that, we got lucky because a couple of them closed under that afterwards. So it was a good deal. But I think bringing those things up to your client, you're right, is like how much you're going to pay in mortgage and HOA in, you know, whatever other expenses there is, property tax, little, you know, expenses, but those all add up. And just, you know, not having the cash in hand and not knowing what will happen. So I think it's important to do that. Also, like you talked about higher offers and how people write. You don't even have to be a sophisticated agent. Like if you're offering 5,000 above, that you're asking for 5,000 back, you're just offering list. And then, like you said, it has to appraise. So if it appraises low, are you going to negotiate that for them, not just the price, but also like no money back? And is that going to, are you going to lose the offer if that happens, if they lose that $5,000 contribution? So it's not just reading an offer, just looking at the number. It's explaining to them what that means. I think we probably all do that, but it's important to do that and not just give a number.
Yep, your title rep can provide you an app that'll give you the ability to present a net sheet. And that way, at the end of the day, this is the bottom line that they take, right? I think if you combine Edie's story about the additional cost of waiting another month, combine that with the discussion we just had about the window of opportunity, their window of opportunity is closing, and thus they're risking that incremental cost getting higher and higher and higher, right? So we got to help them understand, even though this might not be the most ideal offer, what does this mean from a net standpoint if you hold off? Let's talk about this though. We talked about the strategy of pricing your listings right below fair market value to get those multiple offer situations. There's so much benefit involved there. Here's how you can handle those, okay? Let all of the buyer's agents know that there are multiple offers on the table. Now your buyers and buyer's agents are going to be salivating over it. Here we go. Time for us to put our best foot forward. Suggest to everybody for them to submit their highest bid by a certain date. Typically, maybe the next business day, 2 business days later. You might wait 3 business days later. Just depends on the type of activity that you're seeing. Let them know when your sellers will then be responding. Within 24 hours of the deadline, we will respond with our decision on which offer we are continuing. And thus, it is very important that you're helping your seller, again, analyze every offer and not just jump to who increased their price. Okay? Your other option that you have available to you with multiple offers is a multiple counter offer. So there's a form that you can access within the MLS called a multiple counter offer. That's where you can then dictate the terms to all of your various buyers and say, who would be willing to accept this? Your seller still has the opportunity to issue final acceptance in a multiple counter offer. The reason why I would lean more towards a highest and best situation rather than a multiple counter offer is with a highest and best, you maintain the leverage in negotiating. When you are putting into a multiple counter, you are now showing a piece of the hand there. So I would say go with a highest and best in 99% of the cases that you're going to be in with multiple offers. Okay. Now, if you know, the reason why you would use a multiple counter, just so I can make this clear, if you know there's just that one little needle that needs to get moved, and then boom, we're in escrow, and you just want to get that last needle moved for the sake of your seller, and ideally because their timeline is not very long, then you might want to leverage the multiple counter offer situation. Okay. Let's talk about lowball offers. Yeah, Edie.
No, sorry, that comes with knowing your client and knowing their needs and their motivation for selling, right?
Correct. Exactly. Motivation and timeline. Exactly. Let's talk about lowball offers. Okay. How is your seller going to feel about a lowball offer?
Ended.
Exactly.
Insulted.
Yeah, you'll see that face, right? They will want to tell that person where they could shove it. You gotta be careful on behalf of your sellers and help them understand that we need to make a business response, not an emotional response. Okay? Educate your sellers. Mr. and Mrs. Seller. All this is an opportunity for us to negotiate with this buyer on their offer. okay? And help them formulate what would be a great business response. There are zero reasons to simply reject the offer. Now, what you have to keep in mind when you are then communicating with the co-op agent of a lowball offer, you want to establish a basis of cooperation. We are going to work together to figure out how in the world do we meet in the middle on this situation. And that's where we're going to talk about our last conversation, which is the negotiations piece. So I have a little gift for everybody, which is a script, okay? So you get a lowball offer. You've worked with your seller. You're preparing a counter offer. Now it's time to present that counter offer to the buyer's agent. Good morning, Marilee. This is Daniel with Keller Williams Realty. Thank you so much for your offer. We definitely appreciate it. Listen, it was quite a bit lower than what the seller had hoped. And then you wait. Why are we waiting? What are you looking for?
To see if they have room to negotiate. Maybe they're holding on to that. Maybe that's their time where they come out and say, well, I could do this.
Yeah.
Before you reject it, maybe they're going to try and put everything on the table.
What are we listening for? Anybody have any ideas? We might be listening for them to say maybe I could be flexible in price, but what are we specifically listening for?
Information.
Agreement, right? It was quite a bit lower than what the seller had hoped. Then you wait. You want to get an agreement. When you get that agreement, we're on the same page. Now we have cooperation. Let's work together. Now that we're on the same team. Now let's work together on how we're going to attack this counter offer we've prepared. Listen, Justin, the sellers have come back with a reasonable counter offer that should work. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, you want to get really good at downswings when you're doing this script, not upswings. End your statements with downswings. The sellers are countering back for $230,000. The rest of the terms in your offer are fine, except for the buyer's due diligence needs to be at 7 days, not 10. This is something that will work for everybody. Your buyers get home within the market, the sellers are selling at a reasonable price, and we can all move forward to get this closed. Wouldn't you agree, Justin?
Certainly.
Okay. You're ending with a tie down. Don't give them an opportunity to renegotiate by saying, how does that sound? Most agents that are very unskilled in negotiations are going to say, so what do you think? How does that sound? You think we can move forward with this? No. Get used to using tie downs in negotiations. Okay? What do you guys think about that script when presenting counter offers to your buyer's agents?
Like it.
You like it?
Yeah.
Practice this role play in your role play sessions with your agents. Hey, here's what we're going to role play. We're going to role play. I'm going to give you you gave me a bad offer, and I'm going to give you a counter offer. Okay? Let's talk about negotiating really quickly here. Okay? We have an adage at Keller Williams for those that are non-Keller Williams agents, which is called win-win or no deal. When you operate your business in every aspect of conversation with this win-win or no deal aspect, it makes for a more enjoyable experience for everybody involved. And truly, everyone can and will win in the transaction. You see, most agents, I see this time and again, and this is happening more and more often right now. I'm seeing these agents with these inflated egos coming in and saying, I'll be your Superman. I got your back in this. You know what, Justin? You could take this offer and shove it. And they just want to be adversaries. They want to come in and fight. You don't have to start like that and start steamrolling people. It's in the name of the party of the agent that you're working with. You call the agent that you're working with a what? A co-op agent. So cooperate. Find ways of cooperating. Is this resonating with anyone?
Yeah, I had an agent once tell me when I was trying to negotiate a deal, he's like, I've got 20 other escrows right now. And I'm like, how is that looking out for your client? I don't know what I said. I didn't say that to him, but that goes back to representing your client. It's like, I don't care what you have. We're talking about this one house. So I like the way you presented that, and I like the tone that you used. And it's not, because otherwise I think it leaves it up, like it kind of gives me the impression that I can negotiate with you, going back a few steps. Sorry. But yeah.
Bingo. Right? Let's talk about some strategies for negotiating. Actually, I wrote them down, so let me read these off to you. Okay. So the first thing is, these are actually from the manual here, and then I'll share with you a couple more. So the first thing is, always, 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 above anything else, be a professional. Okay? Do not come in there and start cussing, using profanities, and saying, well, here's what we're going to do. Be a professional. Okay? Your goal at the end of any form of negotiating is to get a signed contract or an agreement with an individual. So at times, you might need to remind your co-op agents, especially those that are coming in aggressive, remind them what the goal is with the conversation. It's not to prove you wrong and me right. It's for us to get to an agreement, right? Okay? Bring that to light in your negotiation. Make sure you control what you say. Okay? Do not create anxiety in any parties involved with the transaction, especially the ones that you're negotiating with. Okay? What else it says here? Refer back to motivation. This is good. When you're negotiating with your sellers specifically on what to do with an offer, you're negotiating with them not to reject an offer. Get them back to their motivation, why they were selling in the first place. Don't make it about the emotional response they're having to a specific action. The best negotiators, they remember this one fact. It's a cold hard fact, Justin. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Great negotiators listen more than they talk. Because I'll tell you, some people will talk themselves right out of their leverage position. Okay? The best advice I can give you with negotiations is this. Do not be attached to the outcome. Do not be attached to the outcome. Never, ever, ever be tied to the outcome of a conversation. We get so emotional. We start to show our cards. We risk commission breath if it's with the wrong party when we get tied to the outcome. Whatever happens at the end of the day is going to happen. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come to this conversation with facts and what I believe is the best thing. But at the end of the day, it's about us getting to an agreement, and that's on you, not on me. Suzanne, did you have something to say? Okay. My only other thing I would say, and this is just repeating this when it comes to negotiation, is to send your ego on vacation for about 45 days. Bring it back when you sold the property and you want everybody to work with you, but send it on vacation when you are actually working with a seller or when you're in escrow. Your ego is not going to represent your sellers well. It's in fact going to create more confrontation with co-op agents. I'm seeing some smiles and tears here, so I'm assuming you guys have seen this. It's going to get you into a position where you're now getting into arguments with buyer's agents or listing agents, and you're actually jeopardizing your sellers and buyers getting what they want because you're not getting what
you have to go out and go around.
A great book that I would recommend to everybody for negotiations is this book called Never Split the Difference. Hopefully, those of you in this business have read that book before. Never Split the Difference. A great book that goes more into detail than we possibly can in our 2-hour training. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what I have for you with servicing and marketing your listings and handling offers and negotiation. Talk to me about your ahas and mahas from today's session. What are you taking away from today's session?
Yeah, the biggest thing I got is probably something small, but it kind of stuck with me when you talked about how many people just do those 3 Ps and think that's it. And there's so much more to go in to really advocate and get the job done. And so that really kind of stuck. That's what really stood out for me, that I need to be more than just the 3P man.
Make the 3 Ps in your listing presentation. They love it. What else?
I think just throughout the entire class you've talked about, it's also, even though you haven't addressed it this way, not just about getting the listing, but servicing the listing and servicing your client throughout the listing period, keeping them updated, marketing for them, just, you know, servicing. It's not just about getting the listing. That was just the first step. It's also working it, communicating, you know, everything else, the whole process.
That's right. I think most people, Edie, the challenge there is they're not intentional and systematic with servicing, right? They just do. Gladys said the CAPE method and taking a listing that won't sell. Deja said the concept of win-win. Okay, love that. Anything else?
For me, it's managing my budget, you know, the red light, the green light. You know, I need to really start tracking that stuff a little bit more.
Track effectiveness and define success, Suzanne. Track effectiveness
Right.
and define success, 100% yes. Right, we don't want to get in the habit of just doing everything and then see what sticks. Yeah, we'll go broke. Deja says direct mailers. Love that. Yeah. Awesome. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I know this is a lot of information that we're covering in a matter of a month. We have one more class to go, and then you have all graduated from Win with Sellers. That last class is going to be, we're going to talk about handling the rest of the contract to close process, and then what can you do from a post-close standpoint to earn more referrals. So we got one more conversation, and then I will disappear like a fart in the wind and get you guys to becoming listing agent superstars. But until then, let's make sure that you're learning for earning's sake, not just for learning's sake. Go and take action on one thing from today's class over the next 7 days. And then let's get back together next Friday at 12 o'clock and finish out this experience. Sounds good?
Yes, sir.
Sounds good.
Hello.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
That was a great small group, Suzanne. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Yes.